Hello, Raphael. Here's a new book called The Lighthouse Keeper's Lunch by Rhonda and David Armitage. Once there was a lighthouse keeper called Mr. Grinling. At night time he lived in a small white cottage perched high on the cliffs. In the daytime he rowed out to his lighthouse onto the rocks to clean and polish the light. There's the little white cottage, and all the way out here is the lighthouse. Mr. Grinling was a most industrious lighthouse keeper. Come rain or shine, he tended the light. Sometimes at night, as Mr. Grinling lay sleeping in his warm bed, there he is, the ships would toot to tell him that his light was shining brightly and clearly out to sea. Each morning, while Mr. Grinling polished the light, Mrs. Grinling worked in the kitchen of the little white cottage on the cliffs, concocting a delicious lunch for him. We have stereotypical roles in this book, Raphael. Mama and Dada will explain that to you. Once she had prepared the lunch, she packed it into a special basket, clipped it onto the wire that ran from the little white cottage to the lighthouse on the rocks. See, the lunch is going to go whee to Mr. Grinling out there. But the lunch did not arrive. It was spotted by 3 scavenging seagulls who set upon it and devoured it with great gusto. "Oh, this is an excellent peach surprise, boys." "Oh, she's a great cook, Fred." "Scrumptious lunch, Tom." "Clear off, you varmints," shouted Mr. Grinling, but the seagulls took not the slightest notice. That evening, Mr. and Mrs. Grinling decided on a plan to baffle the seagulls. "Tomorrow I shall tie a napkin to the basket," said Mrs. Grinling. "Of course, my dear," Mr. Grinling agreed. "A sound plan." "Uh-oh. They'll have to try harder than this to stop us, Bert." They just undid the ribbon and still got the lunch. On Tuesday evening, Mr. and Mrs. Grinling racked their brains for another plan. "They are a brazen lot, those seagulls," said Mrs. Grinling. "Brazen indeed," said Mr. Grinling. "What shall we do?" "Our cat does not appear to like seagulls," says the cat, said Mrs. Grinling. "No, my dear," said Mr. Grinling. "Hamish, the cat, is an accomplished seagull chaser." "Of course," said Mrs. Grinling. "Tomorrow Hamish can guard the lunch." "Oh, a most ingenious plan," said Mr. Grinling. Hamish did not think that this plan was ingenious at all. He spat and hissed as Mrs. Grinling secured him in the basket. There, Hamish," she said. "I'll have a tasty piece of herring waiting for you when you arrive home," because herring is a fish. Sadly, Flying did not agree with Hamish. His fur stood on end when the basket swayed. His whiskers drooped when he peered down at the wet blue sea, and he felt much too sick to notice the seagulls, let alone scare them away from the lunch. "Oh, pretty kitty here, pretty kitty, like a piece of lobster mornay." "Oh, this food gets better every day, Fred." "Aren't you going to chase us, kitty?" "Oh, those mean old seagulls." Lack-a-day, said Mr. Grinling sadly. "Meow, meow," agreed Hamish pitifully. On Wednesday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Grinling racked their brains again for a new plan. "What What shall we do? Said Mr. Grinling. Mrs. Grinling looked thoughtful. I have it, she exclaimed. Just the mixture for hungry seagulls. Indeed, my dear, said Mr. Grinling. What have you in mind? Wait and see, said Mrs. Grinling. Just wait and see. Uh-oh, that looks like a mustard sandwich. Extra strong. Mustard sandwiches, chuckled Mr. Grinling. A truly superb plan, my dear. Truly superb. On Thursday morning, Mrs. Grinling carefully packed the mustard sandwiches and sent them off down the wire to the expectant seagulls. Look, they all had a bite. 1, 2, 3. Ugh! Yuck! Ark! While he waited down at the lighthouse on the rocks, Mr. Grinling sang snatches of old sea shanties as he surveyed the coastline through his telescope. And this is what he saw. Oh, no mustard in this lot, Tom. Ha! We'll fly back here for lunch again tomorrow, boys. Ooh, this is a delicious chocolate eclair, Fred. Look, they found a new lunch to steal from the fisher person. Ah, well, such is life, mused Mr. Grinling as he sat down to enjoy a leisurely lunch in the warm sunshine. And look at that lunch. How delicious is that? He's got a chicken leg and a piece of quiche and some salad and chocolate cake and fruit and maybe some beer and looks like a meringue with strawberries on the top. Delicious. And that's the end of the story.